Hey everybody, BoatsDon'tSink, Connor here. Today I have another video on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind. Now that it has been out over the weekend, I figured I'd talk about some sample deck lists for the set. As I said in my top 10, the set has some pretty wild cards, so you can make some pretty interesting deck builds focused around some of the cards in the set. So first off, I have the Golden Wind Requiem deck. This is just using the main yellow level 3 in the set as your finisher, sort of a good stuffs deck built around that. This is probably the most sort of generic looking deck out of them. You just got some like Search Brainstorm, Krista Effect, Clean Cuts, not a whole lot of sort of strange stuff going on, plusing level 1 combo, early plays, etc. So this is for those of you that really like JoJo, but really don't want to go out of your way to play something super crazy. So yeah. So level 1 combo we're playing is Noble Resolution's Bucciarati. So it's on play, it gains 15, and then a climax combo with a draw trigger. When its battle opponent becomes reversed, look at up to 4 cards in the top of your deck, choose up to 1 Golden Wind character, reveal it, put it into your hand, put the rest in waiting room, and then give a character 2,000 power until end of turn. So this card, as I said in my top 10 videos, pretty sweet. It gets really big. It's going to be 7k with climax before any back row boosts, and then it can get up to 9k with the 2k pump. If you put both 2k pumps into the third one, it's 11. So it's really good at just sort of breaking down walls and getting reverses to keep your advantage going. With some of the other cards we're playing in the deck, the level 0 Bucciarati, the level 1 that it summons out, so you can use both of these together pretty easily, and then the 1/0 Abbacchio, all these either pump power or subtract power from your opponent's characters, so that makes it even easier to get your reverses, just to guarantee that we get our card advantage here. The Abbacchio as well, it does need an errata. It currently reads as when this card is placed on the stage from your hand for the second effect. It's supposed to be put into your waiting room from the stage. But for now it's really good. After errata it'll be a little less good, but still worth playing for the minus power effect. It can bond to this 1/0 event, which is put top 2 cards deck into waiting room, choose a level X or lower character in waiting room, return it to hand. X is the total level of the cards that you put into waiting room by the effect. So if we mill level 1, at all, we can grab back our level 1 combo. So this is pretty good for making sure that we constantly have access to more copies of the level 1 if we get the climax again, and just sort of looping into that. It's also kind of notable because you can, if the Abbacchio, once they errata it, it can die, you can pitch a card, grab the event, and then play the event to add him back to hand, and then play him again. Just sort of loop that, as long as you don't refresh. So it's a pretty good way to just keep minus power going, if you do have other characters that need their reverses. Our level 2 game is pretty much just the early play heal here. It's 2 or fewer climax early play, on play heal, and then during your opponent's turn when it becomes reversed, you can discard 1 to rest it, and then at the beginning of your next encore step, put it into the waiting room. Alongside it, we have some anti-early play tech to deal with our opponent's early plays. We play the 2/17k 6 bullets. On attack, if it's facing a level 3 or higher, it gains 6,000. We don't play the climax combo for it, so no need to worry about that text. The 2/1 Bucciarati is a bottom deck anti-change bomb, and it also has on play ditch a climax. Choose one of your opponent's characters, put it into your opponent's memory, and at the beginning of the encore step, your opponent puts that character from your opponent's memory on any position of his or her stage. So for ditching a climax, we get to just sort of remove one of our opponent's characters for turn. This is relevant at level 2 maybe if you're dealing with like priestesses or something, like a minus soul combo, or even if your opponent has like a fat rem early play built up with some markers under it, you can send it to memory and it loses all of its markers, and it'll come back down without them. So you can do something like that to sort of throw your opponent off. A lot of times you'll just use this at endgame to either open up a direct lane or to get rid of a troublesome level 3 that has an effect active on your turn. And then we have an anti-change counter. It's a pay 1, sack 1 character. choose one of your opponent's characters higher level than your opponent's level, put it into their waiting room, and then your opponent gets to choose a level 0 or lower in their waiting room and put it on the stage position that character was on. So unfortunately your opponent does still get all of their attacks. You can't really use it as an anti-damage, and you don't drain a stock from them since you are giving them a character back. But at the same time, it's cheaper than most early or most other anti-change counters. So it's pretty efficient to deal with early plays, and it's definitely efficient as a sack counter at level 3 if you need to like dodge reverses or something. It's the cheapest cost like you'll find on an anti-change sack counter, really. At level 3 we have the Golden Wind Requiem. So this is on play from hand or by the act ability of the 1/1 Giorno. Discard 1, heal to stock. And then climax combo on attack, or when it frontal attacks, if the return trigger is in your climax area, it gains an ability until end of opponent, or until end of turn. I'm sorry. Auto at beginning of encore step, you may pay 3. If you do, perform the following action 2 times, deal 1 damage to your opponent. So this is pretty good at closing out a game. 5 stock lets you do 2 of these. Because you'll play the first one, you'll pay down to 3, heal back up to 4 stock. You'll play the next one down to 2, heal back up to 3 stock, and then 3 attacks will put you at 6 stock. So encore step you get to pay 3, and deal 1 to your opponent 4 times. It's also pretty nice because if you don't have your opponent within kill range, you can just elect not to pay the stock, and use it on more level 3s the next turn if you have them. Or just try to deal the damage into them, hope they can't heal it off, and swing with like 1 soul dudes next turn. So it gives you some options there. We play a couple of cards to just sort of help with this, since he does have to frontal attack. The 1/0 Silent Dance Chariot Requiem is on play, pay 1, choose 2 of your opponent's characters, exchange them as stand, and those characters get plus 6,000 power until end of turn. So it does make your opponent's character a lot bigger, which you might think is sort of not very good, since you have to frontal attack into it. But a lot of times we don't really care if Golden Wind Requiem gets reversed or not, really, as long as he stays on board for his effect. The main thing we're using this for is if our opponent has like a Futaba in their middle position, we can like swap the Futaba to the side lane or swap it with one of their Koga assists in back row, which means that we aren't forced to frontal attack into their burner. If they have like Rider 3/2s, we can swap those with Backstage, so now we don't worry about the you cannot frontal attack this card effect, because that really shuts off Golden Wind Requiem. So this is a big tech card like for the Fate matchup. There's a couple other things here and there, like if your opponent has a minus soul to the thing across from this, or if they have a if this is in center stage and you don't cancel, look at top card of deck and put it on top or into waiting room. You can push that to back row so it doesn't activate. It just gives you some options to sort of help with your finisher there. That's about it on that one. The Trish 3/2 is a little more generic in terms of helping us. It's on play, draw a card, and then choose one of your opponent's characters, and it gets, during this card's battle, you cannot play backup or event cards from hand. Thank God this card says backup or event card, because there have been a lot lately that only do one or the other. But this one stopping both means that we basically get complete protection in a lane, whichever lane we want. So that means that your Golden Wind Requiem is not going to get anti-damaged, your opponent's not going to like tap counter or bounce counter or whatever. You just completely protect one of them. It also has sort of a pseudo finisher effect. It's on play, pay 2, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's waiting room, return them to their deck, and your opponent shuffles. That is usually not going to be a super big deal. You're probably usually not going to use that effect. But there will be scenarios, definitely, where your opponent like plays a climax and ends their turn at 1 card in deck to be able to put their climax back in waiting room. And you can play this and shuffle 2 more cards back into their deck, so they have 3 clean now. And you get to like stick 3 damage for free. So there'll be some scenarios like that where this is effectively like pay 2, deal 2 uncancelable or whatever, which is really good. In those scenarios, this card, you'll definitely use that effect. Normally it's just going to be there for the anti-backup and event effect. Other things that we play to sort of help with this, both of the stand user cards here that can summon out the characters from under them Mainly the Bucciarati, since the Giorno isn't really going to be summoning anything until we play Golden Wind Requiem anyway. But since their characters can pull back under them as markers at the end of the turn, if you do win a lane, you can pull those characters back under them to force a direct attack, so your opponent can't crash, which is going to guarantee that you have characters to frontal attack into on your turn. Since your opponent crashing into your character makes it pretty hard to get Golden Wind Requiem off. The 1/1 also gives you a way to play Golden Wind Requiem from your waiting room, effectively, so you don't have to hoard them all in your hand if you're a little unsure of how many targets you're going to have or whatever. And it's basically just the same cost as playing them from hand to actually get them out. So it's pretty good just to have that option. Yep, so here it is again. The cards I didn't cover, the 001500s in yellow up here. First one's Search Brainstorm. It also has pay 1, choose a cost 0 or lower character on your opponent's center stage, return it to her hand. Almost never going to use this. Occasionally you might use it to bounce a bomb back to your opponent's hand, so you don't have to crash one of your lanes, or use it to guarantee soul. But a lot of stuff in this deck wants to reverse anyway, so you're not really going to be bouncing free reverse targets most of the time. The other one is a clean cut, so when it reverses battle opponent, choose a character, rest it, move it to backstage. And then it has, when this card's damage is not cancelled, it gains 3000 power. So it is weaker than most clean cuts for sure, but if you stick the damage, it's a potential 4500 clean cut. And on first deck, your opponent's not very likely to cancel the 1 or 2 that it's swinging for. So it gives you a very high-powered clean cut to sort of leverage some early play, or early game aggressiveness with. The Guiding Fate Trish 00 is just on play, pay 1, clock 1, salvage a level 1, or it's not even a level 1, salvage a Golden Wind character. So this can get you anything at any stage of the game. Usually you're just going to play it early to get your level 1 combo. That's what these kinds of cards is usually for. And if you have 2 or more other Golden Wind characters, it gains 1000, making it a 3k. So it is really good as a tri-field alongside the clean cut. Since clean cuts want to be aggressive, and this gets a lot of power if you have multiple characters on stage. The 00 Spicy Lady is just on play, pay 1, ditch a Golden Wind, check top 3, add anything, so we can use this to sort of guarantee our climaxes a little easier. It's also part of how we loop combo. The Giorno is on play, ditch a climax, salvage, the 001500 on the right. And then he gains 1000 as well if all of your characters are Golden Wind. So these characters all sort of want you to go aggressive at level 0. So you can go aggressive and then go into your reverse combo or whatever when your opponent tri-fields to swing back into you. But yeah, I think that's just about everything in this deck. The level 3 Giorno is on play, check top 3, add 1, on attack, ditch 2, deal 1. So it's just another sort of off-climax finisher. It also digs for our climax at level 3. Because we don't really have any other ways to dig for it, and we're not playing gates or playing draws. So this does sort of give us a little more dig for our climax at level 3. So yep, that's just about it for this deck. Like I said, it's pretty typical, just generic zeros into plussing level 1 combo into early play heal with anti-early play tech, and then finisher. Second deck I have here is the one that I currently have built myself. This is the Pesci Prosciutto deck. It has a lot of cards in it that are just sort of part of one big package. They take up a lot of slots. They take up 15, 19 slots in your deck, which is a lot, but it's pretty worth it. This deck has a lot of just synergy in it, a lot of strong cards. So the main star is the Pesci level 1 combo. You can see we got a lot of erratas here, but he can't side attack. He's a 4k. He gains 1500 for each of the Grand Teachings Prosciutto in your memory, which is the 1-0 in the middle here. And then when battle opponent becomes reversed, if Grand Death, which is the treasure climax, is in your climax area, put 1 card from the top of your deck into your stock, and then choose up to 1 significance of Resolution, Prosciutto, and Thankful Death in your waiting room and return it to your hand. So that's the level 3. So he adds the level 3 back, and he gains power for the 1-0 in your memory. The 0 here is one of the cards that needs an errata. I talked about this in my top 10 video. He's on currently on play. You get to memory a Prosciutto 1-0 from waiting room. He's supposed to be on death, you memory a Prosciutto from Waiting Room. And then he also, on play, mills 2 if there's a level 0 or lower character. He does not lose soul for side attacks during this turn. The 1-0 goes to memory when it gets reversed, just like the Shiro, Stock Bomb, 0, and Fate. And then he also gains 2,000 power for each copy of himself in memory. So once you stick like 2 of them in there, your level 1 combo is a 7k and this guy's a 75, which is pretty good. These guys are fat. If you put 3 of them in there, this guy is a 95 and your level 1 combo is an 85. So if you can get 3 prosciuttos in memory, you just sort of go to town with your Pescis and they just never die. And sometimes you just like counter over level 2s and 3s for no reason, really. It's just pretty fun. The level 3 itself is a climax combo that we'll talk about a little later. We again play the Bucciarati here with the Zipper Man that on attack pumps power. Since this is a reverse combo, both of these can give power, and they guarantee us an attacker every turn. However, these also have a lot of synergy with the Pesci on their own. Since every turn that you combo, you're adding a lot of copies of a level 3 that you don't have use for yet into your hand. You can pitch that level 3 to your Bucciarati 0 in order to summon out the Zipper Man on the next turn. So the level 3 is essentially a playable, which is pretty solid, because that's one of the issues with this profile, the Pesci profile, is that it doesn't give you a playable. But this turns it into a playable, which is really nice. The other thing is that, just like with Golden Wind Requiem being able to force a frontal or force a direct attack, so that you can get a frontal, in this deck you can pull the Zipper Man back at level 1, so that since Pesci's normally winning board, since he's like 7k or 85, your opponent's not going to like have a lot of lanes to reverse. So if you can force 1 direct attack a turn by pulling your Zipper Man back, it gives you like 1 reverse combo every turn to like keep farming. And since we're a treasure climax, we're going to get the climax back more often than other decks. And this can help make sure that we always just have like 1 lane for a Pesci to keep reversing and keep giving us stock. So there's a lot of synergy between these cards that's just really nice. Our advantage engine in this deck, we're not playing 4 Brainstorms. We're playing some of the Melanie and Babyhead. So it's a 0/0/1k when you trigger check a climax, give a character 1,000. It's a little bit of power buff there. And then pay 1, rest 2, put the top 2 cards of your deck into your waiting room, choose a level X or lower Golden Wind character in your waiting room, return it to hand. X is the total level of the cards put into waiting room. So this is the same effect as that blue 1/0 event. It's just on a character, so you pay 1, rest 2 to do it. This is pretty solid because it does let us get backups back, which we are playing 2 backups, I believe, and we're playing 1 of the Squallow 1/0, which gains on reverse blind stock whenever you use an act ability. So this guy himself, Melanie, is an act ability to turn it on, and backups are an act ability. So this guy's not super big, but you can counter up to 7k with him. So sometimes that will get you a reverse, or you just go offensive with him. Like as soon as you hit level 1, you can field like a Squallow and some of like the Prosciuttos on your first level 1 turn to send the Prosciuttos to memory before you try to go for your level 1 combo. Since you want them in memory to make your level 1 combo big. And you can use the Squallow to get a stock on that turn so that you're not just doing nothing. And it basically gives you a free use of Melanie, which gives you a card. So it kind of turns your Squallow like into your advantage combo for that 1 turn, and then you actually play down your walls and go into your reverse combo. The backups also just like guarantee that your Pescis are never dying. It gets you up to like 9k most of the time, 10-5 if you're really good at the game in memory, 3 Prosciuttos. Normally you're probably going for 2 Prosciuttos in memory, but if you get 3, it's super solid. And since he's pay 1, rest 2, if you mill a level 1 or higher at all, you can get the backup back. Or you can just get like an extra Pesci or whatever. Worst case scenario, you grab the level 0 Pesci and get to memory another Prosciutto for free. And he helps mill them into your waiting room to get to memory them. Again, at level 2, we're mainly playing this early play heal. We have the same anti-change counter to protect it, but instead of the other early anti-play options, words are hard, we're playing 1 copy of the 2/1 Shadow Sabbath. So he's on play, he gains 1,000 times the number of characters you have. So on a full board, he comes down at 12k, which is a little smaller than the 6 bullets, but he can also swing into level 2s and level 1s with that power. So we can play him and just actually run over anything. And since we do play some other power pumps in the set, we can like use Zipperman to pump him, or use the Bucciarati level 0 to pump him, to get him just a little more power to kill any level 3 or whatever. And since we're playing treasures, a lot of times we'll slam a climax alongside him anyway, so that's a little more power as well. His other effect, though, is actually pretty neat. So whenever your opponent plays a climax, if they have another copy of that climax in their waiting room, you can pay 1, discard 1, and then your opponent mills 1. And you deal X damage to your opponent, where X is the level of the card they milled. So it kind of forces your opponent, if you play this like right before they go to level 3 combo, or like if you combo off first and push them close to dead, and have this on board, you kind of force them into a weird spot where like playing their climax might kill them. Obviously, like, it's a lot more effective in multiples, but we're playing it as an early play killer anyway, so just having that weird like extra text stapled on it is pretty neat. And if we have the resources, it's pretty cool. It's a free extra attack. A lot of times they'll just mill a 0 and die, but against like Love Life Sunshine, they just can't play a climax because they always scry 3s to the top. So it's just like a free deal 3, and it mills their level 3 that they were going to use to burn with EO. So in like a matchup like that, you just kind of actually blast your opponent for really no good reason. And then at level 3, obviously the Prosciutto level 3 that are level 1 combo grabs. This card I talked about a lot in the top 10 video. On play, it gives minus 1,000 times level to all of your opponent's characters. So level 1s get minus 1k, level 2s get minus 2k, level 3s get minus 3k, etc. If your opponent has like a level 6 on board or whatever, nice, minus 6,000. And then Climax combo on attack, pay 2, ditch 2, deal 4, and then give one of their characters minus 3k. Little expensive, and the number is a little big. So a lot of times you're not just going to like jam straight into this and try to blast your opponent out. You might play some healers and then try to go for it like a turn late or something. But that's what we've got, like all the early play healers and then a bunch of copies of Emperor Crimson for. Emperor Crimson lets you play a lot more of a defensive end game, where you're just using the Prosciuttos to like, you're using the stock charge combo and then pitching the Prosciuttos into Zipperman all game. And you just go for an Emperor Crimson top end with all the resources that you've generated. And then you get to, so he heals on play. And then when he is frontal attacked, you can pay 4, ditch 3 Golden Wind characters. So unfortunately you can't ditch treasures on this, which is a little sad. You terminate the attack and proceed to the next attack declaration step. So they lose their trigger step, counter step, damage step, battle step, everything. The attack just ends as soon as they declare it and you pay cost. So they lose a stock, they don't get to kill your dude, which means you get like free attackers next turn basically. Or like himself, he lives to attack next turn. And you don't take damage. So like free anti-damage, not free, very expensive anti-damage that also encores your character and drains a stock from your opponent. Lets you play a fairly defensive endgame. You usually can't use 2, but if you use 1, that's usually good enough. You live, and then if you have 2 stock left to play a Prosciutto, you can play it and then attack with it last, just to like do the deal 4 to your opponent. So that's sort of like how you can play a little bit of a slower game with it and get a quote-unquote triple restand by living an extra turn. So yep, here's the whole list. The cards that I did not talk about that are actually new to this deck. I believe it's just the green 00500. It's a drop search, and on play your opponent's whole front row gets minus 500. And then the red 2k is beginning of opponent's attack phase. Not attack phase, draw phase. You reveal the top card of your deck. If it's level 1 or higher, he bounces back to your hand. So that's our plussing 0 of choice in this deck. Instead of clean cut, we're just playing coin flip. He's red color fix, A. But B, we're playing enough level 1 or higher in this deck that he should hit at least somewhat often. That just gives us free tempo at level 1. And if he bounces, they can't crash. So we get reverse targets. Next deck we have here is 8 Standby. So this is in the same colors and is playing a lot of the same engine. So we're still playing Giorno, Brainstorm plus Melanie as our like mill advantage. Still playing Drop Search, still playing Coin Flip. Some of the new stuff we're playing here, we have the Chocolata and Green Tea level 0. So this is on play, you look at top card of deck, put it into waiting room, or leave it on top. And whenever you play the Standby Climax, Chocolata and Secco, you can pay 1, return him to your hand, choose one of your other Golden Wind characters, and stand it. So this is kind of a combination between the Sword Art Online Silica Standby combo, giving you like the top check, and I guess like the Cowgirl Brainstorm from Goblin Slayer, where you pay 1 and bounce it to stand something. And both of those are quite good. This guy is just really good having both of those on the same card. He has like the relevant text from both of them. The 1/1 we're playing a lot of because we have 8 standbys in this deck. You're usually not going to want to be doing this combo to summon it at level 0, but sometimes you will. Like, if you get a free turn and can just like jam some dudes and play your 1/1 and attack with it and have it sitting in front row to just wall your opponent out, that's pretty solid. Not going to happen super often, but it's an option. And even if he does get reversed, you have character on core, so he's not gone forever. And then the 2/2 is the main thing you're wanting to do. Like, your level 1 game plan here is hopefully have a white ice on board, and then something else, and then you standby out the Secco and Sanctuary, bounce the green tea back to your hand, stand it. So 2/275 that gains 2k if you have 2 or more other Golden Wind characters. So it's a 95, which is a little small for standby targets, but you get to attack with it same turn for 2 soul. And it has a climax combo with the same standby, so it's really good synergy between those two. On attack, salvage 3, discard 3. So this lets us set our hand up with like backups, or more backups, more playables, grab our early play, anything like that. We basically have like the perfect hand for next turn after using this guy, which is really good, because one thing standby decks sort of struggle with, since they're like never playing new characters onto board, because their goal is to win board every turn, they struggle with like filtering their hand and selecting into the right cards, because they're usually just like draw for turn, and then like they might brainstorm, and then they're just attacking because their characters lived. So they're not playing all these like utility searchers and stuff onto the board, because they're just too small power. So this lets us fix our hand perfectly every time we play the standby. So pretty solid card. We want to do this at level 1 for sure. We still play the Melanie advantage engine, like I said. Since we're a standby deck, we play a lot of higher leveled cards. So it lets us get access to a lot more things easily. So we're still playing the Tiziano and Squallow engine here. We're actually playing 2 Squallows this time instead of 1. Just because we're a standby deck, and we have costed characters, and it gives us a little more stock. And we don't have an actual combo at level 1 to plus us, so we just want the stock. Next, our level 2 game plan is ideally to trigger a standby and summon out Remnant of the Past Diavolo. So if he's in your center stage, all of your characters get 1500, so he becomes an 11/5 and pumps whatever your other dudes are. And then whenever he's placed on the stage from the effect of Eternal Ruler, which is a standby climax, you can pay 2, discard 2, stand him. So that gives you a restand for an extra attack. You're never really going to do this when you play the climax from hand. Hopefully you're never playing the climax from hand. But it does let you get an extra attack at level 2, which pushes damage, and then it makes your board just huge. And we're playing the 0/0 Bucciarati here. On attack, pay 1, trigger check twice. So this helps us at all stages of the game, right? We play it at 0, we can bring out the 1/1s. We play it at level 1, we can bring out some 2/2s. If we have it on the board at level 2, we can hopefully bring out our Diavolo. And since like we can sort of justify playing this any turn where like one of our guys dies, but we win some lanes, because we can just play this Bucciarati into our empty lane and direct attack with it. And then his other effect is during the opponent's turn. If he becomes reversed, pay 1, rest him, and at the beginning of your next Encore step, put this into waiting room. So basically the same effect as the early play, but you pay 1 to do it instead of discard a card. So this is sort of a plussing 0 for us as well. We can play this at level 0, get our 2 trigger checks, and if our opponent kills it, we get to attack with it again by just paying a stock. So it's a pay 1/+1 that also lets us twin drive again the next turn. So it's like 1 copy of this guy will see 4 triggers, which gives you a lot of chances to dig to hit standbys. And that's how this deck is going to get a lot of its card advantage, is just triggering standbys and making walls. We also play 1 copy of the Abatio 2/1. We're playing the card that it markers as a standby target anyway. You're probably never going to play this guy from hand, or if you do, you probably don't care about him grabbing a marker, but if it's ever relevant, we play the marker guy anyway. Mainly he's a global 1k, and he's like the only thing in the set that does that. The Diavolo can't give power from backstage, so if we're ever standbying like something just onto the board to give power, this is kind of our only option, which kind of sucks. I wish we had like a 1500 assist or a 2k assist that could just sit in the backstage, but we don't, so Abatio it is. At level 3, we're playing Emperor Crimson again. The cool thing about this list is that we can standby Emperor Crimson out, which means we don't have to pay 2 to play him. We don't get the heal, obviously, but it makes it a lot easier to pay for Ditch 3, since we didn't have to play him from hand, or pay the stock to play him. And then he also doesn't have to win battle if we standby him out, so he can just sort of chill and is guaranteed to live onto our opponent's turn, so long as they don't like bounce him or remove him or something, in order to use his effect. We play 1 copy of the Risotto 3/2. He is hexproof, so he's a cool like off-climax finisher. On play, he searches, which basically, if we need a healer, we get a healer. If we need Emperor Crimson, we get Emperor... Well, Emperor Crimson is a healer. You're kind of just always searching Emperor Crimson with this, or like a backup or something. He mainly just cantrips into a guaranteed attacker, which is pretty good. Alternatively, if for some reason you flooded climaxes, you can like play him, grab the 2/2 Sanctuary and Psycho, and climax combo, salvage 3, ditch 3. But mainly he's just grabbing Emperor Crimson. And then on attack, you can pay 1, discard 2 to look at top 3 from your opponent's deck, choose up to 3, put them in waiting room, return the rest, and shuffle. So you're just looking at top 3 and ripping out any climaxes, which is pretty decent as an off-climax finisher, because we get to just not play a climax, swing 2/2/2 or 3s if we're direct attacking, and not really worry about what our opponent is doing. And then hopefully we just trigger Eternal Ruler, bring out Diavolo, and get to attack extra times. So this deck just sort of really wants to play, like, oops, here's some healers, and maybe I accidentally restand. That's just sort of your whole top-end plan, is live. Live and have fat guys, because that's what this deck does best. So here's the whole list. I don't think this one's, like, super strong. If you're playing an 8 standby deck, there's probably other series to do, but if you like JoJo and you really like standby and you really want to just cheat Emperor Crimson into play and not have to pay his cost, this is how you do it, right here. Only card we didn't talk about is the 2/2 Moody Jazz, which we're playing that because it's blue. It helps us fix color for the early play because we're not playing a whole lot of blue in this deck. But it's also just something we can standby out at level 1 that's a little better to standby than our Climax combo 2/2, since it's a little bigger. It gets -2 level on stage, which unfortunately does mean that it loses to like level 0 bombs. But it's a 10k, and its other effect does take away the biggest downside of minus level on stage cards, which is normally that they can be side attacked. Like, your huge power doesn't matter if your opponent can just side attack you. But this guy has an effect where the character facing him can't side attack. So you kind of just have to crash into his 10k body. You just hope they don't have like bombs that can reverse him or whatever. So yeah, fun deck, cool deck. Check it out if you like standby. And here's the wild one. So this is the anti-standby deck. And this one's kind of all over the place. It's mainly, I mainly put this one together to show off the Little Bomber 2/1, which is, I think, a really cool card and a really unique card. So I decided, hey, why not go all out with what he does and just make a deck entirely centered around that. So this is probably not the best list, in this video. But if you really hate standby, or you really hate people cheating things in early, this is the deck for you, I guess. So first thing, we have our level 1 combo, Simmering Fury Fugo. On play, he gains 15. On attack, we do literally the same thing that like 8 other cards in this set do. It's the 1-0 event, the Melanne 0, like, same effect. You mill 2, grab a level X or lower. Cool because it's card advantage this time that's free, because it's a climax combo. And he can grab himself if you mill a level 1, like another copy of himself. So it's kind of easy to loop if you just attack with him last. So like if you trigger a gate, and you know you're getting another copy of his climax, you can just salvage more copies of him and combo again next turn, which is really solid, especially with some other cards we're playing that can sort of not really guarantee your climax, but help you get it for a cost. But yeah, so this combo, unfortunately, is kind of bad at grabbing 3s, but we can deal with that, kind of. Instead of the Bucciarati 0, we're playing the Fugo 0, which also markers from deck, which is really good, I think. I think that's a big reason, or a big part of the reason why the Bucciarati 0 is so good, because it compresses you on first deck by just a little bit. Instead of resting for power, he's pay 1, clock yourself, rest him to salvage a level 1 or lower character, which can just help you get set up early game, give you some card advantage. That Takitsubo is usually a good effect. You don't really want to be clocking yourself a ton though, so oftentimes you'll just use the Melanne instead. And instead of summoning a character that pumps your other character's power, the character he summons gains 500 times the number of characters you have on play. So he just summons something huge. The goal is just be huge all the time. Your level 1 combo is 7k, Savage Smoke is 75. If you trigger a climax, you give 1k. If you play a climax, well, Savage Smoke is 85 if you play a climax. Fugo needs the climax to be 7. We just want to be big. We want to reverse things. We want our opponent to have to replace their characters every turn. That's the big goal here. And at level 2, we get to really do that. So Low Bomber, his sole existence in life is to delete standby targets from existence and delete early plays from existence. So when you play his climax, which is the gate, if he is in your center stage, so you reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Golden Wind character, you perform the following action X number of times, where X is the number of characters you have. Choose one of your opponent's characters, give it minus 1,000. So one copy of this guy on a full board gives one of your opponent's characters minus 1,000, 5 times. So you can minus 5k in one spot, or minus 3k, minus 2k, or however you want to do it. If you have 2 of these, you're now putting 10 minus 1,000s on your opponent's board. And if you have 3, you're putting 15 minus 1,000s on your opponent's board. You can sometimes just like accidentally kill a Futaba 3-2 that's in middle position with a Koga assist. Because that's fair, I guess. It's just a lot of minus power for free on a 218k. So a lot of times you're just going to play this into like, oops, my opponent standby to 2-2, and it's like 11. So now it's 6, and I'm 9 with my climax, so I'm going to reverse it. And you do that in like 2 lanes or whatever. And now your opponent lost the character that they were about to use to like regain all their card advantage. Because usually standby decks need to win board a couple turns to actually maintain advantage. And you just get to throw all that out the window, like immediately with this guy. And even against non-standby decks, right? Like your opponent's playing, say ReZero. They usually just protect their early plays with the 2-1 anti-change counter, because that's usually all they need to protect them. But if you minus 5k their Rim early play the turn after it comes in, like their counter doesn't even save it. So they just lose their Rim. And that's a resource sink that they didn't really want to take. Because if you have 2 of these, like you threaten the Rim and the Felt. And they're usually okay 3-stocking the Felt, but they're not okay 3-stocking both of them. So you just get to like shoot down early plays and shoot down standby targets, and it's really cool. There's not many decks that can do that. And since you're playing this alongside some early plays yourself, Like, Mista's 11.5, and then Bucciarati's only 95, but he's there too. And then, like, so if your opponent has 11Ks or whatever, sometimes you can just go like, okay, we'll go minus 2K, minus 2K, minus 1K off of one low bomber and have early plays, and you just reverse their whole board. Which is super cool. I love this card. And you don't have to play this card in a super dedicated deck like this either. The Pesci Prosciutto engine deck can play it, because your advantage combo and finisher are on one climax, so you have an empty climax slot, which we played comeback because that's just card advantage. But you could play this guy in there and be like heavier on blue, and then you have like cool advantage combo, cool blow your board up, cool finish you. Man, sweet card, real sweet card. And since it's on gate, it's kind of easy to get the climax. We're only playing 3 of the climax, because some games you just don't need this if your opponent's playing like level 1s the whole time or whatever. But yeah, gate lets us get it fairly easily. So yeah, sweet card. We're playing the trial deck Brainstorm instead of the double rare one, which does need an errata, as does every card in this set, because Bushiroad forgot to hire a proofreader or something. On play himself, okay, so currently says when your other Golden Wind character is placed on stage, look at the top card of your deck. It's also supposed to count himself. That'll probably get errated eventually. We play this instead of the Giorno Brainstorm because we have a lot of cards that need to top check, or they like mill top 2 or whatever. And knowing constantly what the top card of our deck is means that we can go like, oh, you know, the top card of my deck's a climax, my low bomber's gonna miss, let me brainstorm real quick. Or, oh, the top card of my deck is a level 3, let's go ahead and use my Melanne effect to salvage anything. Just stuff like that. Gives us info. And since he's a brainstorm himself, if we ever see a climax, we can just brainstorm and draw a card off of it. So, solid dude. Drawing is obviously worse than searching, but we're using Melanne for most of our specific advantage anyway. So that's fine. We're also playing one copy of the 0/0 Babyhead, which is plus 500 to all your Golden Wind characters. And pay 3, sack a character, rest this card. Choose one event card or climax in your waiting room and return it to your hand. This guy is not great, but if you really need the Room in the Turtle event at level 3, you can pay 3 to get it. And the other thing that we're kind of using this for is to guarantee that we always have our finisher climax. Since we are playing 3 climax combos in this deck, we had to find room for them somewhere. So we're only playing one copy of the level 3 combo in this deck. We're just kind of, either we trigger a gate and get to add it back to our hand, or we draw it, or we pay 3 and sack a character to tutor it. So hopefully one of those ways gets it for us. And if you ever trigger it into your stock, you like have to pay it out immediately. Or just know where it is so that you can pay it out with Babyhead to use its effect. The Room in the Turtle itself is a sweet card. It's classic trap from Kill la Kill. And it has some cool synergy with a lot of our cards in the deck. It prevents reverses, so if you're playing against like Yukina or it's another big reverse combo right now. I guess Yukina is the biggest one. That's like actually just gonna blow you up if it reverses you. Mikasa needs a reverse, but it's not huge. Obviously, you still want to play this event against her. But yeah, just anything that needs to reverse, you can use this to return one of your characters to your hand. Doesn't even have to be the character being attacked. So in the mirror match, if your opponent swings with a Golden Wind Requiem, you can bounce the character across from their other one, so it has to direct attack now. Yeet. You can bounce your early play Bucciarati to heal. You can bounce your Mista early play to get his on play, like during the turn he's played, shot effect again. You can bounce your Narancia to play it in Mill 5, deal X again, which I talked about in my top 10 video. With Narancia, it's really cool because you can play him and then main phase bounce him and then play him again to like push damage. With Bucciarati, you can play him, heal, main phase bounce him, play him again, heal again, which is not great, but you know, it is what it is. It's pay 2, ditch 1, heal. like basically. Which is fine. That's like not terrible rate for a card that's as versatile as Room in the Turtle. Rest of the cards we play, I think the only ones we didn't cover. So the 0/0 Polnareff. Well, okay. 0/0 Mista, top left. On play plus 15. On play, stock a card from your hand if you want. If we ever go over hand size, because we do have a lot of ways to build card advantage in this deck, though most of them are costed. But if you get like good coin flips at level 0 or something, you can play this guy and get some free stock, which you can turn into like Melanie top checks and stuff, or Melanie mills. He's also the early play condition for the Mista early play. He has to be in clock. We have enough ways that get like level X or lower characters that can just mill a 0 and grab this guy. That we only really need 2 to get the early play, because the early play is also good at level 3 as a off-climax finisher. The Polnareff is on attack, you choose one of your other characters and it gains 1,000 times its soul, which lets us break walls in conjunction with climax. So if we play a climax and have like a 1-0 on board, we can pump it 2k. At endgame, we can pump our level 3s 3k if we really want, but that's probably less relevant. It also has pay 1 sack it act ability to add Room in the Turtle back to your hand from Waiting Room. So this is another way that we can just tutor out Room in the Turtle. And since he's at level 0, we can grab him off of Melanie and Light Fugo and stuff really easily. We play the 1-0 Narancia, is just the typical marker stuff, but for the 2-1 Low Bomber. The cost on its pay 1 ditch a character. You need to be level 2 or higher. His other effect is that when you use an act ability, you give a character 1,000. That includes his own act ability to summon out the Low Bomber, so this is just more power pump for no real reason. He's mainly in here because he's an easier to grab character that can effectively summon Low Bomber from a Waiting Room if we don't have another one in hand, but we need more minus power. We have the 1-0 Zipperman. This is the trial deck Zipperman. It's just on reverse, you can send him to memory. Like when he reverses something, you can send him to memory, bring him back at your next draw phase. So it's card advantage that doesn't cost stock, which is something this deck's a little short on outside of climax combos. And since we're playing so many like power pumps and just wanting to reverse things in general, it's just a little bit of free card advantage for us. That's sort of the next best free splash level 1 we can play. And then we play the 2-1 Mista. This is the trial deck level assist. So 500 times level to the characters in front of it, which is pretty good for the Low Bomber. So it gives it 1,000. Gives all of our like early plays plus 15. But it also has on play pay 1, discard a climax, add a climax from Waiting Room to hand. So just one more way for us to either loop level 1 combo or guarantee our level 3 climax, since we're only playing 1 copy of it. Then we have 3 of the Golden Wind Requiems for our actual finisher combo. So like I said, this one's a little wild, it's a little out there, but it's really cool at just blowing stuff up. And if you wanted to play the Low Bomber in a like more normal shell that's not so like all in, you can do that just as well. Like Low Bomber doesn't really need support to just blow stuff up. So yeah, I believe that is it for deck lists. JoJo's is a crazy set. Like I said in my top 10, I don't expect it to be super high tier, but like there's just so many off meta, like anti-meta cards in it that have potential and give it like random, really good ways to deal with matchups. It definitely could get there. I don't know that any of these lists are it outside of maybe like the Pesci Prosciutto engine, because that deck's just sort of a stable, solid deck. But yeah, I think these are some decent starting places to look at cards, get a feel for what cards do really neat stuff, really good stuff that you want to have in all your decks. Because you probably noticed I had a lot of the same cards at level 0 in a lot of those decks, because they're just really good generic cards to keep in your lineup. But yeah, so hopefully you guys can maybe use these as starting points, build off of them with cards that you want to try out, different combinations of cards, and come up with something that you really enjoy playing. So I think JoJo's a really fun set to play, just with like all the unique cards and all the flavor in the set. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. You can check me out on Twitter, Facebook global community, either of the Discords, and check out my shop on TCG Player. The shop I work for is Card Addict. Links to all these will be in the description. We have JoJo's singles up. However many of them are left on there. I know they've been selling like hotcakes. So thank you guys, and I will see you next time.